Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 001 of Trash Panda Pundits, where we're digging through the trash for you. I'm Radio.
This is Mayhem.
Well, Mayhem, it's a momentous occasion. It's our first episode. What do you got to say?
I know, I'm just excited. This is something that we've been working on quite a few months now. Got a bunch of social media platforms started and kind of trying to build those up and get to a place where we've got a lot of content that we can start bringing you guys. So this is our introduction video where we get to kind of talk about how we got to this point and where we go from here.
Nice. I've definitely become a Twitter enthusiast since we've begun this venture.
Twitter aficionado.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Professional, at least?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. So I guess to get this thing started, how'd you get to this point in your life where you're at now with the Trash Panda Pundits and what we're doing?
Well, I can say that it definitely started my senior year of high school back in 1998. My senior paper was on Project Blue Book. So I think that's where I can say I was red-pilled, as the cool kids like to say nowadays.
So for those that don't know what Project Blue Book is or what it's about, what is that?
Project Blue Book is the government's involvement with UFOs and everything that happened at Roswell, all that stuff. So it was definitely an eye-opener for an 18-year-old kid.
What was eye-opening about that when you looked into it?
Well, I'd have to say pretty much everything as far as what people like to call conspiracy theorists. When you take a look at what happened at Roswell and the government's covering up of those events, and then as of just recently saying, hey, this stuff did happen, like say, who's crazy now?
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. Crazy times is we've got this virus that we're dealing with from China, as they like to say.
The Wu flu.
Yeah. And then the Pentagon releases this information about UFOs, and it's like, it just kind of passed by everybody.
Right. Nobody even cared.
Something that would typically be like headlines across everything is all of a sudden, just whatever. It was an article.
Right. Basically, it was just a blip in the radar. So that pretty much brought me up till today. We started working together in law enforcement, and when I got a little tired of that, I decided to leave the force and pursue other ventures in my life. And we kind of connected again after me leaving there, and we decided that, hey, maybe we should put something together and kind of talk to everybody about what we're seeing, what we're thinking, and maybe bring some people some consciousness.
So what was tiring for you about law enforcement?
I think a lot of it has to do with the politics. I think that was the main problem with law enforcement. It was kind of like a good old boy club. I didn't like it. And my main focus, the reason I got in that job, was to help people. So I think we started to stray away from that. And it really set me off. So I think I had to leave. That was the only option for me.
Where are you at now as far as what's going on with your life and everything that we've been looking into and whatnot?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm a proud stay-at-home dad. I get to spend a lot of my time with my kids, so that's really important to me. I want to make sure that I'm raising them right and being there with them as much as I can be. And, I do work part-time in the funeral industry. And my other job is Trash Panda Pundits. So that's kind of exciting.
I think the Trash Panda Pundit sounds a little bit more fun than Dead Bodies per se, but hey.
Nobody talks back to me at my other job, so.
Yeah, well, you're going to get that from me. So, so you got anything else to kind of talk about as far as introducing yourself and so people know where you're coming from?
Well, just super excited to be here. Want to make sure that we're providing quality information and, try and help people as much as we can.
So what kind of information do you think we can kind of put up to people and help them understand?
I think what we're going to do is basically take political news and news stories of the day and try and debunk or just sort through the mainstream media's sugarcoating of things and hiding other things that they don't want people to know, and just try and make sure that everybody's got a clear conscience of what's going on with our world today.
I would imagine. I mean, we can't go to North Korea and find out if Kim Jong Un is actually alive.
I don't
But
know about you, but I can if I want to.
oh, okay, all right.
Not
Well,
really.
I'm pretty much tied down to where I'm at. But that was something that came out recently, and um, I didn't feel one way or the other about it. Just wasn't sure. So it's one of those things where actually on our social media we posted about that, not knowing. It was more like just sharing, being like, "Hey, this isn't confirmed. This is just what's being thrown out there right now." So it's one of those things. Is like that's a prime example of I think what we're going to try and do here, which is you know combing through Twitter, a lot of the news articles online and stuff like that, and trying to figure out where's the truth and a lot of this garbage that's being put out. So um,
I like it.
sounds
I think
good.
we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Enough about me. Let's talk about you. How did you get to this point?
All right. Well, and I'm an artist. Always have been since a young age. It's something that I've always done on the side. I wanted to do something with it. Um, as young as I can remember, and have it as a profession. But that didn't always work out the best. I went to college for a little bit. Didn't like what I was doing in college, as far as the general art classes. So I dropped out of college. And at some point, started a family and had to figure out how to pay the bills. I was working in fast food at the time and was like, this is not going to, take care of the little girl I have coming on the way. So at that time, I started talking to my father-in-law, who was a cop with our local police department. Told him I thought I wanted to be a cop. He's like, no, you don't. I was like, yeah, I do. We went back and forth and argued about it. He told me, if you want to get to know, if you want to become a police officer, the best way to do that is to actually get into a jail and learn how to talk to people because you can use that um, tool on your tool belt when you're out on the streets to kind of de-escalate situations. So I got into law enforcement through the jail, worked in the jail for a little bit on the floors, and then eventually I promoted up to a sergeant. So sergeant for I think like 5 or 6 years. Not everybody knows this, but I supervised you, and we had good times. We did Special Olympic stuff together. So we'd go and support the athletes at all their functions. We did like a tip a cop where we'd go to restaurants and talk to the patrons there, serve them their drinks, their food if we could, and all that, and introduce them to the athletes. And so basically, we were raising money, for the special athletes so that they could afford the gear that they needed for the sports that they were playing.
I'd have to say that was probably the best part of the job.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was one of those things. It's volunteer, so we didn't get paid for it. It was just something that we did because we enjoyed it. And it was a great time, and to see the smiles on their faces when they were, seeing us helping them with the things they were doing, or the amount of money that we raised that they looked at like, wow, I can go buy the equipment that I need now to play the sports when I'm competing in the Special Olympics. So that was definitely a positive, I think, of both our careers there. But I got to a point where I just kind of got tired, like you, of a lot of the politics, even though that's what this is about right now. Is like we're, looking into politics. I've never been like a really political person coming up. It wasn't until like the last 18 months that I've really got heavily into the movement, the Where We Go One, We Go All movement, also the Q movement, the conspiracy theory movement, if you want to call it that. That's what a lot of people call it. But that started back in Thanksgiving of 2018. I was with family up in Nebraska. And right before we were leaving, headed home, they were watching a documentary kind of called Unacknowledged, and was really interesting. It was Dr. Stephen Greer, I believe, and he was talking about UFOs and aliens. I've always felt they were not alone, but I haven't really seen anything to prove that. And so I just started watching the documentary with my cousin, and I only got it about half an hour into it when we were leaving. I asked her, I was like, "What is that?" I'll look that up when I get home. So he gave me that. Got home and I watched it, and then all of a sudden I found myself going down this rabbit hole while I was here at the tattoo shop, because I own a tattoo shop and have for the last 4 years. But when I was working on tattoo designs, I just listened to podcasts, usually of the extraterrestrial UFO culture, and listened to those individuals while I was drawing tattoo designs. There was this one podcast I was listening to, and The end, I think it was David Wilcock. He had mentioned QAnon. I was like, what the hell is QAnon? So I started looking that up. Um, I remember that night pretty vividly. The family was at the theater while I was sitting here in the tattoo shop, and all of a sudden I looked up, went on YouTube, and I looked up Joe M's video um, about QAnon, and it was a video that like hit me really hard, and like I remember I kind of got a little emotional watching it because it was like it summed up everything that we've been going through, and that's when all this pretty much started. Um, and so I got on Twitter and I just started digging. I went on qmap.pub and I started looking at things, and um, basically that's when I got red pilled and woke up, and I haven't fallen asleep since. It's not always fun.
It's
Um,
never easy knowing things.
yeah, no, you look at what's being put out there, and I look at day to day people walking around town buried in their cell phones, have no clue what's going on. They're being fed a bunch of BS and they don't know it. It's just you see things and you look at things differently. There's a lot more clarity to what you're seeing and what's going on, and so I've shared that with family. They haven't always been happy about that because they actually enjoy Disney movies. So now they've got to question everything they see and those movies they watch. But yeah, I started digging in the drops and looking at that and looking at the Q clock. That's far beyond my comprehension. Like,
That's a little beyond me, the Q clock thing. I mean, I appreciate that it's there, but
yeah,
I'm not quite there yet.
well, apparently everything's lining up. I even saw a post recently that someone showed um, on the 18th of May. Everything kind of lined up to where it needed to be. So, but that's one thing I was like, I'll leave that for someone else. They can kind of explain that out because I don't really consider us autists.
Right.
I mean, we try. We don't always hit the nail on the head. But like I just started digging on Twitter, following specific accounts on Twitter, kind of seeing what they were putting out there, trying to engage, and I did that on my own, and then we got together and kind of shared with you what I'd been looking into, and and then all of a sudden we just kind of decided to start Trash Panda Pundits.
Hey, let's start a podcast.
Yeah, I mean everybody seems to be doing it, so why not? I've shared with family what's going on. Not everybody's receptive to it.
Right.
My wife, my kids. At first, they thought I was nuts, and then when I'd said something 6 months ago, and then all of a sudden today it happens, and it's in the news. They give me that like WTF look, like how did you know this? And to me, that's even a little bit creepy. How the future events are proven by the past statements, and so that's one of those things. Like I don't know what's going on there. Sure would like to know, but don't. But it's pretty crazy. So
Yeah, it didn't take very long for my wife to jump on board too. After a couple of happenings, she was like, "Okay, this is scary. What do you know and how do you know it?" And I'm like, I'm just a voice for movement, not really, you know, anything other than that." My kids still think I'm crazy. They're like, "Dad, you're crazy," but it is what it is.
So yeah, my son, he's 13, and he's all into sports, so he just looks at me like, whatever, dude. My daughter got her fairly interested um, in that, and she's online on Instagram like any 15-year-old girl is. She's got several accounts on Instagram. One of them is political in nature, so it is what happens. I've tried since I found this. Like, it's one of those things. When I first told my wife about it, I was like, I don't know if she's gonna like, this dude is nuts. What did I get myself into? Or like, I didn't know this about him. She's been pretty accepting and understanding, and ultimately, she's kind of at a point where she's over all the BS that's going on right now, especially with the current quarantine that we're slowly coming out of and stuff like that. Um, but I think in sharing with them, they were better prepared for some of these things that are happening. There's a little bit more understanding to that. So that was good. I've got my father-in-law and then his wife that I've tried to red pill, and I have for the most part. His wife is like digging into it just as much as I do. So that's cool. I've kind of sparked a fire with her. He just texts me and asks me questions. He's like, "Hey, answer this for me," or are we on point? Are we at where we should be? And so those types of things.
I think
Um,
if we can just get people thinking, whether they agree with our point of view or not, if you're thinking and you're doing some research, you're going to do yourself, some great good, even if you don't agree with what we have to say.
Well, and I think the whole point of what we're doing right now is to share with people. It's our opinion. We've done the research, and so based on the research we've done and the things we found, this is kind of where we sit. And so I've had family that I've talked with about this where it didn't turn out that well, and I wasn't arguing with them, and I wasn't saying you need to be more middle of the road or you need to come over to the right side, you need to be Republican, you need to be conservative. I was just pointing out, making points. The CDC had released a graph showing pneumonia and influenza deaths going all the way back to 2014. There's a spike in 2014 that's, way higher than what we're dealing with right now in regards to coronavirus. So,
I can't remember. Did we quarantine for that?
no, I don't believe
I
we
don't
did.
think so either.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of
But that's the thing is like people are starting to wake up and are looking at things right now and it's not making sense. Like, why are we shutting down the country and then the world for something that, and I don't know, so I can't speak on this. I'm not a doctor and I'll never allege to be that, but it is real. I believe that much. But it's a respiratory virus. So it's a little bit different than the flu. But the flu kills more people a year than this has, and we have always just gone about our business and lived our way of life and knew that the flu was there and we'll deal with it as it comes. And I think people are starting to see and looking at it like, what the hell's going on here? So, um,
almost as if keeping you safe is code for something else.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you see that online every once in a while. I saw a post the other day that kind of basically said the same thing, but it was going back to Nazi Germany and how they talked about keeping you safe. And that's the thing is no one knows what's really going on right now.
Makes me wonder how many people will get in that boxcar today. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Excuse me. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of where how I ended up to where I'm at now. The research I've done for the last 18 months. My whole thing is like I just want to share. I mean, my biggest thing since I started this was I just wanted to share information with people. I didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to be right. Who doesn't? But more of it is just when you have knowledge of something, you have some information, you want to be able to hand it down to others, so that they're better prepared to deal with specific situations. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what this has all been about. Like, I know that there's certain people, family, friends that, um, even clients that don't have the same views, and I have no desire to sway them in that. But if they want to have a healthy conversation about it, I can bring up my points and they can bring up theirs. And hey, if they got me on something, they got me on something. Learn from it and I'm better for it. So, but I think that that's ultimately your and I's goal with this whole thing is to, you know, put out some information, have a discussion about things. So there's a few out there that have been, waiting for us to put something out and kind of talk about what's going on and let's get this ball rolling. So
Yeah, we were talking the talk for a while, so now it's time to walk the walk.
yeah, we're almost talking the talk too long. So
Yeah.
I was like, we got to make this happen and get this thing going.
Damn
So
you, Wu Flu.
yeah, well, I mean, I had to be away from you for 14 days at a time every time you went and picked up some, you know, body
Yeah.
that was potentially or allegedly infected with COVID-19. So, um, yeah,
Well, hoping that we can put forth a good product per se, and help out as many people as we possibly can. I know one of my main goals is when I was growing up, I had a vision of America, and even though I'm Native American descent and I hold a lot of ills towards our government, there's an America that, in my mind, where the people will do what's good for all, and not just a few select people doing what's good for them. So I'm dreaming of a good America, and I think the person that we have at the top right now is doing the best he can, and he sees that America too. So we'd like to bring it back and have a great America, the America that was envy of the rest of the world. So I'm envisioning that, and I think we're heading in the right direction. I think everybody that's part of this movement is just helping push it over the edge. The president can only do so much, and like you said, you can't tell people. Sometimes you got to show them, and I'm 100% believing in that.
Well, and like I also I think about it in that like not everybody currently likes the president we have right now, and I get that, and that's okay, you know.
He wouldn't have been my choice in 2016. I can tell you that
No,
right now.
no. I mean, he when he first entered, I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? You know, you've got Hillary Clinton, you've got Donald Trump, and then it was just like, wow, the choices. Like this is going to be interesting.
I hated the comparison, lesser of two evils, but
Yeah.
now I'm liking it.
Well, and that's the thing is like I didn't know. I mean, I knew about Donald Trump from the Apprentice, the TV show that he had, and it's like, so what's he going to do? He's just going to fire everybody? Well, I mean, he pretty much
You're
has.
right.
But, you know, everybody freaks out about when he fires someone, but then you come to find out later there was a very specific reason and why that happened and why that person was let go. And, you know, and he talks about draining the swamp. And it's one of those things with this president is when he says something, sometimes people are like, this dude's nuts. But then about a week to 2 weeks later, it comes true. And you're like, what in the hell? You know, but as far as like voting, I just was like, screw it, I'm going with Trump. I was also a new business owner. We just opened our tattoo shop, me and the wife, and it's like, well, this dude's a businessman, and our country needs to be run like a business. So he knows how to run businesses. So I can only imagine what he could possibly do for the country, and you know, so he got my vote. Um, you know, I understand they played him very negatively in the media when he first came out talking about fake news. It's like, come on, dude, like seriously, fake news. Well, now that's a true and real thing, and that is ultimately why we're here talking. You know, having this podcast and starting the Trash Pandas is because it is fake news, and so we want to be able to bring that kind, you know, the factual type information, provided we can find it, give that to you so that you can kind of weigh that against everything else you're seeing. So
That kind of leads into, those with the most to lose are the ones that scream the loudest. And yes, I'm talking to you, crazy Nancy.
oh, poor Nancy. I mean, yesterday she was talking about uh, the president being morbidly obese, yet she stands in front of a $24,000 freezer with a crap ton of ice cream in it.
That gourmet ice cream. I don't even think you can get that at the local King Supers.
No, no, no. So, you know, it's crazy times we're living in. Um, we kind of have a plan for how we're going to put things out so you guys understand kind of when to look for us, and we'll put it out there and let you know when we're dropping something new. But we have a YouTube channel, so we're going to be dropping videos on YouTube as we produce them. We'll also then just put out a podcast, so we'll announce what platform that's going to be on and where you can catch those and listen to those. Starting out, we're going to try and keep it kind of concise. I think like 30 minutes is usually it's pretty good starting out, anyways. Um, but ultimately, I think we want to do like about one video a week, and it's just going to kind of line out the political current events that happened in the last week. You know, because for those of you that are busy or getting back to work and don't have the time to dig into all this stuff like you have in the last 6 weeks, it'll be a good way for you. You know, you hear something on the news, you can tune into us and or watch us, and you know, then kind of compare that to what you've been hearing. And some things will probably make a lot more sense when you do that. So that's what we're planning on doing, is just having one video a week as far as current events. I think we'd also like to do a second video. We're going to call that the Patriot Pill. That's basically like your weekly dose of things that are making sense this week, or not even this week, but in the past compared to now, and things that aren't making sense. So what's not adding up? And that's a big, I think, theme right now that we're seeing, if you'd agree.
I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's kind of what we're shooting for. You know, is one, give you current events, and then two, kind of like a red pill that you can share with family. Kind of like that Out of Shadows video. I shared that with family recently. I wasn't sure how they would take that, but they were all like, "Oh my God, like explain," you know. So I had quite a few conversations with them, And that video has woken up a lot of people.
Yeah, that video opened up quite a few eyes.
And I know that there was some in our community. There was some arguing back and forth about, you know, the financial gain they were making for putting this out there, or that maybe some material had been um, copied, stolen, borrowed, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
lifted.
Well, if the information is good, that's what you need to worry about.
Well, and and I also think another reason that we're doing this, getting into this, is if you think about it, there's going to be division no matter what it is, and we're kind of seeing that in our community. And
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't really like that.
and when I talk about community, I'm like, anons, those that follow QAnon, conservatives, you know, whether you like it or not, the liberals know how to stick together better than we as conservatives do, and our movement gets going in the right direction, and then all of a sudden, someone gets bent out of shape about something, and then all of a sudden there's this infighting. And so our whole thing is like we want to promote against that. Like, we need to band together. We need to share information, and educate each other and keep each other informed, and work together as a united front. Because after all, we're all patriots, and that's what it's about. It's taking back our country and you know leaving a better place for our children when we can no longer be here. So
Well, it just comes back saying, united we stand, together we fall. So
yeah. So I don't know. What do you want to? What's our next episode? What do you want to focus on?
well, I think our next episode we should probably focus on, everything that's happened over the last, 6 to 8 weeks. We can kind of talk about the pandemic and, kind of give everybody little bits of information, some other things to look at. I know a lot of people are watching the news. I don't know if everybody watches Fox News or if you watch CNN. I hope you don't watch CNN, but or a lot of people only watch their local news, and local media is just that's even worse than corporate media. So you know maybe we'll just try and give an overview of what's happened over the last 8 weeks and kind of talk about where we're going from here. I hope everybody's doing well and safe. I don't want anybody to get sick, but I'll be damned if I'm wearing a mask either. My face is too pretty to cover up sometimes.
Oh, yes, yes, it is.
But I think there's a lot of mistruths out there, and a lot of fear mongering and scaring people into doing certain things. And I've told you several times, how do you get people to do what you want them to do? You make them afraid. People will do anything when they're scared. So we need to kind of band together with people who are scared, maybe not knowing what's going on, and just let you know, hey, it's not as bad as you think it is, and you can go back to work and be safe at the same time. And I think you've been proving that for 2 weeks now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think we're going to be good.
I'll be honest. For the health department, I'm required to wear a mask, as are my clients. So, was I excited about that? No. And I had a almost 12-hour tattoo the other day, so my nose and my ears were hurting. So initially, when I saw some of those pictures of like healthcare professionals and the marks on their face, I was like, whatever, that's fake news. But after doing that for 12 hours, I get it.
Looked like you just had a CPAP machine on your face all night.
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, but I'm just glad that I was able to get back to work because it was getting a little hairy there for a bit. Um, yeah, I finally got my stimulus check in the other day, so
Hey, there you go.
now we're doing well and
Put it back into the business.
crazy busy. Great thing about locking everybody down and shutting everything down is now they want to spend their stimulus money on tattoos. So I'm drowning right now, but it's a good drowning.
I'd like to say I'm the recent recipient of one of those tattoos.
Yeah, we had to get the Trash Panda Pundits logo tattoo,
There's only two like it.
and that'll be it for the most part, unless you can give me a good price. Then we'll
Oh,
see. Then we'll see.
oh man.
I
Okay.
don't know, but no, like I think next week we'll focus on, as you called it, the pandemic, and I would agree with that because that's the one thing that's happening right now that people are waking up from. They're becoming united. They're standing up. They're not going to put up with the tyranny that they're seeing from their government officials, specifically their governors in their local state. Um,
We need to point out too, it's not just the United States. I mean, people from all around the world are joining in on this fight. They're they're seeing what's going on, and they're right there with us. So, don't think it's just the United States. The whole world is behind this movement, and they're wanting to, just like the rest of us, be free, hear the truth, and you know, have the government get out of our way of our lives.
Well, and I think the other piece in why we're doing this is because, like with my father-in-law, he's been interested about the timeline. And I've told him, I was like, well, this is when I think things are going to happen. Or this is when the arrests are going to happen. And, and we'll get into the arrests and we'll kind of talk about what that looks like as far as we know.
Right, the done in 30 took us all for a loop.
Yeah, I think maybe 30 was 30 months, not 30 days.
I was just thinking that today, actually, too.
Yeah. But so that's the thing is like, we want to go out there and kind of provide that information. We don't have a specific timeline, but things are happening. And we know that in looking at the drops when you look at what's being reported on the news. And it's not happening at the speed everybody wants it to. But both of us having worked law enforcement, we understand how slow things go and how methodical it's got to be if you want to make sure that these people who are supposed to be arrested stay in jail and are prosecuted to the fullest extent. So, we're going to try and provide a timeline as best we can. There are some things that don't make sense, or the Disney executive resigns, whatever. Well, there's a little bit something more behind that, and that's with any executive. They've been dropping like flies, and so it's a big spider web. And the typical person that doesn't look into this, it's hard for them to understand and kind of connect all the dots. They're out there. You just got to find them. So I think that's one of our goals is ultimately to kind of keep you informed. And if you're swaying towards this side of the fence and trying to figure out what's going on, I think this is a good platform for you to listen to and watch, and we can give you some information that can potentially clear up some questions you had. So yeah, I think next week we'll start on that if that works.
No, that sounds good.
All right.
We just wanted to get an introduction, get something on tape, so that everybody can get to know who we are, put a face or a voice to a name, and get this bad boy rolling.
Well, I mean, look at Twitter. We're following more people than we've got followers.
All right.
They're probably like looking at this logo like, is this a Russian bot? Or who knows? But we definitely want to increase our outreach and stuff like that. So putting our faces out there and saying this is who we are. I'm Mayhem.
I'm Raydio.
Well, and so to explain our names real quick, I'm not going to go and give up too much, but my last name is May. And when I was a sergeant at the sheriff's office, whenever I worked alone on my shift with my deputies, it seemed like, because I had a work partner, another sergeant I worked with, it seemed like every time I was by myself, pardon my French, things went to shit. And so everybody started calling me Sergeant Mayhem.
Well, in a jail, that could turn in like a blink of an eye.
Yeah. So that's where Mayhem comes from. And then I just think Raydio is a good name for you.
That's kind of funny because my first name's Ray, so Raydio. I like that.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
It's worked out well. So with that, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you've got some questions, go ahead and just go in the comment section down below. Throw a question at us. We'd love to answer that. We might even, integrate that question that you've got for us into our next video. We can kind of have a question and answer section where if you've got a question, throw it out there, and then at the end of our next episode, we'll go over those questions and give some answers. We'd ask that you subscribe to our channel and then just click the link to turn on post notifications so you get updated whenever we put a new video out. And like I said, we'll still got to figure it out, but we're going to find a platform to put our podcast on so you can listen to us when you're driving to work, if you get back to work, which we all hope you do.
Everybody loves some good Trash Panda in the morning.
Oh, yeah. So,
don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I think we have a TikTok, but I've never actually used it. So
I don't even know what we're going to do with the TikTok, to be honest.
I think I'm going to let my 14-year-old daughter take over that.
Yeah, because I think it's like, 10-second videos?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know what we can do in 10 seconds, but...
she TikToks all day long.
That's nothing. Give us some suggestions in the comment section. Whatever platform you're on, whether you hit us up on Twitter or you go to our YouTube, If there's something you'd like us to focus on and something you'd like us to talk about, throw that out there. We're open for pretty much anything. So
Definitely like getting some feedback, talking to you people. We want to talk to as many people as we can. Obviously, we're speaking what we're talking about, but we want to hear everybody else's ideas too, and that makes us and all of us better.
well, and I think and another reason that we started this, not to drag this on because we're going to wrap this up fairly quick, but our goal is to reach people here locally. We're in northern Colorado, and so we want to reach those people locally that have questions and things aren't adding up. We'd also like to speak to some people in the community, and so we'll got to find who
Some
is
guest
interested.
speakers,
Yeah, but we want to have some guest speakers and have some conversations.
some local government.
Yeah, and I've got a couple that I can reach out to, and
Oh yes, we definitely do.
maybe we can make that happen, especially having worked at the sheriff's office. So that's kind of our goal. Is to get out there and kind of open the lines of communication and talk to some people and kind of ultimately kind of put out there what the perception is.
We're definitely going to represent Colorado as best as we can. Kind of sometimes feels like we get left out because we're not on the left or right coast.
Mm-hmm.
We're in middle America, and we're still here.
Yeah. So I think with that, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. Until next time.
All right, cool. Well, let's wrap it up, and I look forward to putting this out for you guys next week.
Well, that's Mayhem.
And that's Raydio.
We're out of here, guys.
Later.